All right, it's officially draft week, which means, it's time to talk about JJ McCarthy. This is the big debate in the NFL world right now. Is JJ McCarthy good? Well, is he a good quarterback prospect? If you don't know who JJ McCarthy is, he was the quarterback at the University of Michigan for the last 3 years. He didn't start until 2022. He was a backup in 2021, but he played as a starter in 22 and 23. He was a national champion this past year. He beat Ohio State every year he played. He's pretty high up on the all-time Michigan school passing yards and touchdowns list. He's pretty darn good. He's a winner. But if you go online, not a lot of people seem to like him. Not a lot of people think that he's going to be a great NFL prospect. Why is this? Well, first and foremost, JJ McCarthy isn't the best quarterback in his class. There's 3 guys that are way better than him. There's Caleb Williams, who's in his own tier, and then 1 tier above McCarthy are Jaden Daniels and Drake May. Those 3 guys are going to get picked before McCarthy unless some team completely loses their mind. All 3 of these quarterbacks have a lot more on their tape and a lot more on the stat sheet to show for, which is why people tend to rank them above McCarthy in their quarterback rankings. And this is the main thing about JJ McCarthy that people really knock him for. He didn't have to do much while he was the starter at Michigan because they were mainly a run-first offense behind guys like Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards. They didn't throw the ball as often because, well, they didn't need to. They got to a national championship just by running often. And if you look at some of the individual game stat lines for McCarthy, it's pretty insane. If you look at Penn State, it looks really bad, but that's because they didn't throw the ball basically at all. They just ran it and they were able to win the game like that. Because of this, people refer to JJ McCarthy as things like a handoff merchant or a game manager. If you don't know what a game manager is, Wikipedia defines it as a quarterback who, despite pedestrian individual statistics such as passing yards and touchdowns, also maintain a low number of mistakes such as interceptions and fumbles. Such a quarterback is seen as a major factor in neither his team's wins nor their losses. His performance is good enough to not negatively affect the performances of other players on his team, even if he himself does not have the skills to be considered an elite player. To put it simply, a game manager is a guy who's just kind of there. He's not going to win you a game, but he's not going to lose it for you either. And a lot of people think that this is what JJ did in college, which is a cause for concern because game managers in the NFL were usually stars in college. In short, the argument against JJ McCarthy is that he hasn't really shown why he deserves to be a first-round pick. For me, I disagree. I think he has shown that he's worthy of a first-round pick. And instead of just explaining it, I'll show it to you.
For this part, I'm going to go through JJ's game film, mainly because I believe that on-field performance matters way more than measurables and so-called tools. Just because you're 6'4", 230 and you can run a 4.5 40 and you can throw a football 60 yards down the field and you can hit an uncovered receiver in stride doesn't mean you can do all of that in a game situation where there are 11 guys whose goal it is to try to make sure you don't do anything. 2021, JJ McCarthy looked like he was well on his way to being a generational talent, but this statement needs a lot of context. This was his freshman year and he was mainly used as a gadget player to sub in for McNamara for a few plays at a time. Because of this, and also because a lot of his reps came with the game already in hand, he was more inclined to make a big play rather than keep the game afloat like he did in his next 2 seasons. And if you watch a highlight reel, you'll see exactly that. McCarthy is making unbelievable throws and playing like there's no tomorrow, because that's what he was put on the field to do. But that doesn't mean it's not impressive. Take a look at this fantastic throw he made against Michigan State. In this situation, he's in the game to throw off the defense, who's expecting the less mobile McNamara. McCarthy is rolling to the right off of play action and he has a couple of options. You can tell that he wants Andrell Anthony right off the bat, and that's eventually where he goes, but he's hoping early on that he beats his man and gets open enough for JJ to get it to him. If he's not open, his tight end Luke Schoonmaker is, and a check down to him at worst makes it a third and manageable and at best gets them a first down. Or he can just run with it, which best case scenario makes it third manageable. Most game manager type quarterbacks would take the safe check down in this scenario. Of course, McCarthy's not into play it safe. If Jim Harbaugh wanted to play it safe, he would have left McNamara in the game, which is why McCarthy goes for the guy he was hoping to hit right off the bat. This is a very difficult and very dangerous throw. If it's underthrown or too low, the defender picks it off. But McCarthy places it high and further into the end zone, making it so that Anthony is the only player that can even touch it. All he has to do is jump up and make the grab. Here's another clip from his freshman year, this one demonstrating his abilities as a runner. Michigan's running a read option here. McCarthy scans the defensive line and decides whether or not to hand the ball to Blake Corum, who will take it towards the left. Northwestern's front seven makes sure that that side is not open, so McCarthy pulls it down and takes it himself, finds a hole on the right side, and everything after that boils down to instinct. JJ jukes one defender and then has the speed to get away from the guys behind him, only being caught when another defender shed the block JJ was trying to follow. This play demonstrates the things you can't coach: improvisational skills and instincts. McCarthy has to quickly recognize that he needs to run with the ball, and he has to do anything he can to run it as far down the field as he can.
It's plays like these that got him promoted to starter in 2022, and rightly so, because he was definitely better than Cade McNamara. And while he did take a backseat to the run game in his 2 years as the starter, he still made a huge impact, and I don't think they would have won the national championship without him. Here's a play that I found while watching Mike Too Nice's video on McCarthy, which I'll link in the description because he does a much better job with his analysis. This play breaks down pretty quickly, forcing McCarthy to escape the pocket and sprint to the right. If we pause it here, he has Colston Loveland open for probably at best a 10-yard gain. Or, again, he could scramble for maybe around 5 yards. Problem is, it is third down. Would it have made a difference if they didn't convert and had to punt it here? Probably not. This Indiana team was really, really bad, and the result would have been the same regardless. But don't tell that to JJ McCarthy, who instead of being content with a short throw to Loveland, directs him downfield where, as we are about to see, there is absolutely no one there. As soon as he tells Loveland to do that, this is a touchdown. NFL teams love this kind of thing, the ability to create outside the pocket. I mean, the most impressive play I've ever seen from a quarterback was an improvised outside the pocket play. Patrick Mahomes is the best QB in the NFL for this reason, because he's so creative and he thinks outside the box when he's scrambling like this. It's also why Caleb Williams is the top overall prospect in this year's draft class. Is McCarthy as good as either of these guys? No, but he can do it. And here we have the entire 2022 Fiesta Bowl against TCU. While researching McCarthy, I found a comment from Redditor UJVery16 that explains why JJ McCarthy is a difficult prospect to evaluate. He makes some really good points, but I want to focus on the second one here. He is more built for a fast-paced offense. When Michigan is losing and he has to play more hurry-up, he is more successful. This is the only game where McCarthy has had to play from behind for a significant chunk of time, largely because the rest of the team was getting absolutely cooked. The running game could not get going, and the defense was getting burnt to a crisp. 2 pick sixes didn't help at all, and it largely contributed to Michigan being down 34-16 late in the third quarter, but McCarthy absolutely took over this game and brought them back into it almost by himself, only not being able to complete the comeback because, again, the defense was atrocious. When you're playing from behind, the game plan goes out the window, and you gotta do whatever it takes to claw your way back into it. And while it is a 1-game sample size, if you want proof that McCarthy is capable of putting the team on his back, this is it right here. But there are some things he needs to work on. Take this play from the 2024 Rose Bowl, for example. This is an awful decision and an even worse throw, to the point where I'm not exactly sure what he wanted to do here. He either overthrew Roman Wilson, underthrew Cornelius Johnson, or thought Caleb Downs was on his team. I could also see the possibility of him wanting to throw it away because there is nobody open, but if that's the case, then why isn't he throwing it way higher and way further out of bounds? It looks more to me like he was trying to get it to Johnson, who is not only blanketed, but the best freshman cornerback in all of college football is sitting right there. JJ got lucky that this interception got overturned because it was an awful play. And this is one of his big weaknesses as a prospect. There will be times where he just tries to force a ball into double coverage or to a blanketed receiver instead of just throwing it away and living to see another day. This is coachable, but it's a fine art. You want your quarterback to take risks, but you don't want him to be careless with the football. Here's another one. Why on earth is he throwing the football in this situation? There are 4 defenders for Purdue as opposed to 2 receivers for Michigan. It's also first down, and you have the lead. This is something he needs to work on, not forcing throws like this, because NFL defenses eat these kinds of throws for breakfast. Decision-making isn't the only place he needs work, however. This throw is a good decision. Hitting Cornelius Johnson on the sideline for a chunk play is generally a good idea, but he just misses him. He puts it too high. And that's the other thing about McCarthy. Most of the time he's on point when it comes to accuracy, but every now and then he'll just completely miss on a throw. You'll be able to see this a bit more when I go over his combine throwing session, where he just puts the ball where a receiver can't get it. He doesn't do this often, but even once or twice a game could be a serious problem. A missed throw in college will usually result in an incompletion, but in the pros, it could very well be an interception. And finally, I want to briefly mention that McCarthy doesn't have very good touch or arc to really any of his throws. If you watch him throw deep, you can see he's forcing it every time. He's not lofting up a high arcing ball that has a lot of hang time. He only throws at one speed, and especially outside the numbers where it's important to get a good arcing ball up for your receiver, he just doesn't do that. It's definitely possible to coach that out of him, so it's not a deal breaker, but he will get picked apart if he continues to force every throw like it's a short route. Obviously, there are more examples I could have used, but for time's sake, I'll just link a few videos of McCarthy's tape from college in the description so you can watch for yourself. There are things he needs to improve on, yes, but overall, I like what I see from him. He doesn't look like a typical game manager quarterback, at least to me. One thing I saw someone mention, and I'm not exactly sure where I saw it, but they said that McCarthy looked like a field general stuck in an offense that needed a game manager. And I completely agree. He is much better than we give him credit for. McCarthy did not test at the NFL Combine and only threw. How his throwing session went depends on who you ask. Some people will say it was terrible and he made a lot of awful throws, while more rational people will say it went pretty well. To prove my point, I'm going to grade every throw for McCarthy at the Combine on a scale of bad to good. So very complicated stuff. Let me show you all of them.
JJ McCarthy again. You'll see it. The ball jumps out of his hand. It's just real live arm.
Yeah, it's nice that he's out here and able to hear headlining DJ. No one was really worried about all the things they've heard.
JJ McCarthy's second crack at it.
Throwing, obviously, right?
Correct.
The next three, McCarthy, Penix.
I am biased because I love doing this, first network to ever do it, and so obviously I want to see everybody throw. But CJ Stroud just completed.
Oh, this doesn't have anything to do with his performance. I just thought this was funny. So every time he steps up to throw, and I mean every time, you can hear this girl, probably around my age, screaming bloody murder like she's obsessed with him. And I get it. JJ's a pretty handsome dude, but he's also engaged, and Katya, his fiance, is a perfect 10. He is not calling off his marriage to get with you instead, no matter how hot you are. Sorry.
Arguably the greatest rookie quarterback season ever. Now, I know Big Ben made it.
And sometimes, DJ, as you said, you're not going to get downgraded, although I think it's hard for players to believe and agents to believe that you won't get fired to that throwing session.
Well, I guess then let's talk about the guys who are throwing while they're throwing. I guess that would be the point, that they are throwing. What do you think about what we are seeing?
I want to see just how the ball comes out of your hand, first of all. You're seeing drops, which a lot of these guys haven't done a ton of. McCarthy's done a little bit of. He's very loose, very smooth, very fluid. So kind of
your age.
Devin Leary right there, obviously 4 years at NC State, 1 at Kentucky. And obviously JJ's only been at Michigan.
He's been the one that's jumped out to me a little bit. The grade that I had put him kind of as like a 4th, 5th round guy. Rhythm, timing, you know, he's got some. So
it's a nice route.
Yep, and a one hitch is a good ball. Just a little bit working to the sideline.
See how Jackson ran that route, though, from Tulane, DJ? He ran it like you'd rather, even though everybody knows exactly what you're doing.
I think McCarthy's feet are really, really clean.
Yes.
We're going to get this ball out. When do I get it out? Your feet slow down. And I think as the workout's going along, he's starting to cut it loose a little bit with his feet.
I don't think he has any problem after today showing that, and we'll see it in the go ball as well.
Early and with some loft, and let him just run underneath it.
Fans dig the go routes.
They perk up a little bit here. Again, it's hard for quarterbacks because you're trying to learn the speed of guys you don't know. So getting it up early and high, like he can just get that up with a little more loft and then let the receiver adjust his speed to the throw.
That was 60 yards in the air, by the way.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's the last one is the perfect one.
Okay.
Through, I guess.
Here's JJ. Oh, nice ball. Jeez.
That one out there. Here's McCarthy. So it's a 7-step and a hitch, and that's a perfect throw right there.
That type of control. Look at that from Leggett.
For a big dude.
That's not bad. Now these next two you would expect it to look the part, wouldn't you?
Yeah, McCaffrey. Nice hands catch.
It's a fun drill. Nicely done.
This is a big-time test throw for quarterbacks. Look at these wideouts on these deep corners. It's a ball that requires that's perfect. J.J. McCarthy dropping a dime.
The fade.
So just catch, rock, and throw if you're the quarterback, and this is where we get a chance to.
Nicely done.
There we go.
J.J. McCarthy. How do you think it went today for J.J. McCarthy, Charles Davis?
I originally intended to get this video out a lot earlier than I actually did, but because I had to completely rewrite parts of it to make it a more accurate and well-rounded analysis, I was still working on it when his pro day took place. I'm going to brush over his pro day for a few reasons. One, because good footage of it does not exist thanks to everyone being too infatuated with how handsome he is to actually show the receivers he's throwing to or the routes he's throwing. And two, because a pro day is supposed to go well. It's more like a play or a show. Quarterback workouts are scripted, and they are specifically scripted to show off what a quarterback can do. So if you are athletically capable enough, you should have no problem at your pro day, considering you have been rehearsing these throws for weeks leading up to it. So it should come as no surprise that McCarthy crushed it at his pro day. But I do want to talk about one throw in particular. Does it look familiar?
Top 5, he couldn't beat Coastal Carolina. First of all, Steve mentioned, oh my goodness, that is just a silly throw.
It's the same throw. Is J.J. McCarthy the next Zach Wilson? Is J.J. McCarthy? No. Zach Wilson had a lot of other red flags and problems, and it also didn't help that he was drafted to the NFL's quarterback graveyard, even though I'm more of the opinion that he's just bad to begin with. JJ is not Zach Wilson. Grow up. As an NFL prospect, JJ McCarthy is, well, it depends on who you ask. Normally, I don't analyze a prospect this in-depth, and I just rely on the opinions of others to get a good idea of how good they are, but a lot of the opinions I've seen come from two of the most irrational fan bases in all of college sports. If you look at the numbers, McCarthy looks like an average quarterback at best. But if you look at the tape, the thing that actually matters the most, at least I can see that McCarthy is a good quarterback that is playing in a system that does not maximize his strengths. Will he be a high-level starter right off the bat? Probably not. But he can succeed in the NFL. He just needs to go into the right situation. In my opinion, J.J. McCarthy is a mid-first round level quarterback who has the potential to be a top 10 level starter in the NFL, but also has the potential to flame out stupendously. Does that conclusion mean it's a good idea for him to be taken as high as number 2 overall above guys like Jaden Daniels and Drake May? Absolutely not. That's insane. But that's a topic for another day. He's still pretty good. And as always, thanks for watching.